Hello everyone and welcome to this panel on the state of CSGO in 2021. I'm Matt Porter, the CSGO and League of Legends producer for Dexerto, and I'm joined by some great guests to discuss everything Counter-Strike today, so I'll let you guys introduce yourselves, I guess starting with Niclas.
Thank you very much, Matthew. My name is Niclas and I work as head of sales at Abios. We are currently one of the biggest data providers, esport data providers in the world. We help media companies, betting sites and teams and whatnot with everything around content within esport and odds and streams and whatnot. I love CS. I've been playing CS for more than 25,000 hours in total, both professionally and with a lot of friends. So CS is just a very big part of my life. So I just love to talk about CS. I love to play, and the most important thing, I love to bet on CS as well. So that's kind of a quick introduction.
Valentyn.
Hello, my name is Valentyn. I am head of business development at WePlay Esports. And at WePlay Esports is a company that combines best practice into production, entertainment, and esportainment to develop and involve esports market at all. With big pleasure, we'll discuss the CSGO topic regarding our new products, regarding viewership and what we are able to provide, what WePlay are able to do for this area and this ecosystem as well.
And Jakob.
Hey, I'm Jakob Kristensen. I am founder of probably the greatest Counter-Strike team of all time. I think I can say that without sounding like an asshole. Astralis, and on the daily, I am Chief Commercial Officer or Chief Revenue Officer, meaning that I oversee any sort of commercial activity that we have, whether that is marketing-based or partnerships, our physical space in Tivoli called Nexus, or our league participation.
Great, so let's get started. So the number of people tuning in to watch an esport is a great indicator of where it is. So let's talk about viewership. We saw the PGL major smash records recently, so I'll pass it over to you guys. What does the current viewership tell you about the state of the scene? How is it right now compared to what it once was, and how high do you think it can go in the future? Let's go to Niclas.
Yeah, sure. Just like you said, the major numbers were like really insane. I don't think that I've ever seen so many people online on Twitch at the same time in the CS vertical. I think that the maximum viewers were like 2.7 million people watching at the same time, only at the major final. So it's obviously, it was really insane, and I think that it was both. CS is a very popular game, obviously, but I also think that one of the main reasons was because we haven't seen a LAN in a very long time. People were just very hyped to see all of the just to be back on LAN. So I think that a lot of people that love Counter-Strike was watching the streams, but also a lot of people that was just happy to see an audience again. So like we spoke about before this panel started, I think that this record is going to be held for a long time, because I don't think that the next major is going to crush these numbers.
Yeah, I will fully agree with Niclas, but I have also a few ideas that it depends on the situation. If LANs will come over and we will have more events, the viewership could grow up. But basically, yes, due to the reason of awaiting of such a great event during 2 years, this is a point why we reach such good and great numbers. Also, I can see that, and I can say that there are a lot of good options through the different region and different teams, which also give good engagement and good viewership stats for media side and media perspective as well.
Yeah, Jakob, anything to add from a team perspective?
Yeah, so I think it was obviously interesting to see it go this high. There's no question there have been a build-up and there's been sort of an excitement to get back to this thing. We haven't had a major since Berlin 2019, so it's been quite a thing. I think the online sort of era of Counter-Strike has also almost siloed the regions of the world, right? You couldn't play an American team online because the internet can't kick that. So for the first time ever, we're really bringing it all together and really playing it out. And I think it was a great sign to see. I think there was a lot of, I wouldn't say worry, but I think there was a lot of sort of debate whether or not Counter-Strike still had it in itself to get to that height. Because I think previous majors, the last sort of real peak was in Boston. and with a stronger American viewership base. So I think all in all is a very, very healthy sign. We'll see if it can continue to climb. I think we'll see. The major is a unique thing, and hopefully we'll get a good one in the spring as well without too many complications. But I agree. I don't see a 30%, 25% growth coming in for the next major.
What do viewer numbers translate to for you as a team?
I think in general, viewership numbers is obviously a very sort of healthy parameter of what the game is and how many people are engaged in it. I think in general, Counter-Strike is a little bit of a different game compared to a lot of others because of its simplicity. Like Counter-Strike is a game you play to win. There isn't really that many other ways to play it. It's not really, doesn't have such a big casual player base as, for example, League of Legends or some of the others. So I think there's a natural sort of attraction and draw to the professional players. And if you want to see the professional players, the major is the best place to do that. So obviously this is good for us and it's good for our partners and the visibility of the game. But I still think that the really exciting thing about it is sort of the broader, I would almost say, social appeal of the games. Because I think, again, the live sports is one thing, and that is super cool that people are watching this. But I still think people talking about it, people engaging with it, people watching the content before and after the tournament, I think that's the really crucial part of it. But again, it having a big raise in viewership is obviously means more exposure is always a good sign.
Yeah, I was wondering, do you see merch sales going up and stuff like that, or is it more of a long-term sort of sponsorship kind of thing?
I actually think that the bigger sort of thing has been that due to Counter-Strike's nature and esports nature in general, we don't have the set schedule. So, for example, in the fall of 2020, when we launched our jersey for that season, people would have a very viable reason to believe that they would not wear this jersey at a physical event until the next one actually comes the year after. So I think we were needing this gathering point, and I think the most valuable thing, honestly, for me with the major and with Blast, which was right after here in Copenhagen, is just for people to see it and feel it and be there in the arena. Because I think speaking about Counter-Strike, talking about, there's so many million people watching it online, that's completely vague to most people. They don't get it. They don't understand it. They don't, this thing called Twitch, what does that mean? Like, they don't even get it. I think bringing people together, getting that rush, feeling the crowd, watching the flames, cheering, I think that's the most valuable thing. I mean, you can just feel the buzz here in Denmark after Blastwell is amazing. Everybody's talking about Counter-Strike. So that's what we needed more than the online viewers.
Yeah, I can say that as well. I mean, when it was the Stockholm Major, I brought my father into Avicii Arena, and I mean, he had never watched a single CS game before. But when he got in there, when he felt the environment, when he saw that, like, with this 15,000 people here all hyped up, and when the bomb was exploding or something like that, it was just, I mean, you could just feel the heat come against you. I mean, it was just an insane feeling, and he could be like 10 minutes after. When he had been there for 10 minutes, he was like in love with the game. So there's definitely something special about being in an arena, and a special thing about Counter-Strike.
Yeah, and it's definitely growing as well. I was at the major and at Blast, and I had taxi drivers in both Stockholm and Copenhagen who didn't know anything about esports, but they had heard of Astralis, they had heard of NIP and stuff like this. But let's talk about getting the fans back into the arenas. We've just come out of the online era of Counter-Strike that was caused by the pandemic. Talk me through the struggles that CS has faced over the past couple of years and how, like you were saying, the impact of being back on LAN.
I will start because it's probably our topic of area, because we are a tournament operator, organizer, and we create such amazing events. So I think during the pandemic and for esports ecosystem as well as for CSGO ecosystem, it was shown that esports is one of the could be a competitor for traditional sports, because during the pandemic we launched a lot of online events with a great performance. As we talk right now about PGL, all people were awaiting this event and were watching this event. But I believe that such a long promotion with LAN events, promotion without LAN events will give us more possibility and more attracting the people. Just seen on the Blast results, where were more than 25K of fans when it was opened for LAN event. So I can see it hard to say how it could be because we still don't understand the final decisions regarding the COVID regulation for 2022. But I believe that there will be a better situation, and WePlay as and another one tournament operators will be able to provide the viewers, the fans, with top quality content, maybe without viewers, but with Lund's online, like we did it for WePlay Academy League and for another one events. So basically, I just can say that such an opportunity give a reasonable points for esports to be competitor for traditional sports as well.
Niclas, anything to add?
No, I mean, I just think that during the pandemic, from like a player perspective, this is just my personal opinion, but I think that there was so many, like they had to create a lot of new tournaments under the pandemic. You could see like the 9 to 5 and the Home Sweet Home and whatever the tournament was called. I think that the good thing about the pandemic was that it was bringing so many like tier 2 players. That was, I mean, there were a lot of people talking about them, but they really had their time to shine when these types of tournament popped up, because there wasn't any LAN or anything like that. So players really had a chance to, I mean, the not very famous people had a chance to shine. So I think that there was a lot of struggles, but also very much positive things coming out from this.
And for Astralis, what did you go through, and what's improved since we've only had two LANs back? But what's improved since then?
I mean, to be honest, everything was turned upside down for us. It was probably one of the biggest curveballs we've ever been served. You know, we have built, or we have spent years building the best possible machinery to perform on a big stage, and all of a sudden, you were sitting there playing for 6 straight hours, practicing at home. You get up, you go grab a cup of coffee, you come back, and all of a sudden, you're playing for $250,000. Same position, same clothes, same everything. That was really hard for us, because that was our advantage, right? We had built a system of how to get ready for games, how do we deal with our problems, how do we deal with the crowd, how do we deal with all these things, and we can just chuck all of it out the window all of a sudden. And I think for a lot of players, it was really, really hard mentally. I think we have really sort of underestimated the toll that it will take on them, because all of a sudden, their day wasn't just practice and then going somewhere and seeing the world and getting out of their room. It was basically just the same thing all the time. Games, practice, all of it just melted into one big sort of pool. And yeah, I've seen way more players' bedrooms than I ever wanted to see in my life on a webcam, to be honest. So I think it was, for me, sort of as a company, it was a really weird time as well, because at one time we'd never had more viewers, and on the other time we've never had less people wanting to spend money on it, because all budgets were frozen because of COVID. So I think it was a really, really weird time, and we as a company, we're lucky. Let's be honest. I mean, we could continue to do what we wanted to do. We could continue to operate despite the fact that the world was seeing this terrible sort of event. But I think all in all, it was a really, really rough time for us. And I think, now that we're getting back to normal, you can see it in our team as well. I mean, this is what we live for, and this is what we built the company for, and meeting our fans. So I think, it was a rough and a very, very weird period. But I think all in all, we made it through as a company and as a team by sticking together and really working with what we had.
We are starting to get back to normal, but there are also, there's always the possibility that it can go wrong again. Like with the Blast World Final, for instance, isn't going to be in front of a crowd again. It's going to be in the studio. So Valentyn, what do you think tournament organizers can do for the teams to sort of combat the issues that Astralis and other teams were facing during the pandemic that Jakob was just talking about?
It's a really great question. I think it could be a kind of boot camps which could be organized for teams if there is a possibility to travel between countries, because there is a lot of problems regarding the pandemic, because not only the offline LANs couldn't be. There is a problem to traveling from another country with such which is not good. And this way we provide, if you are talking about what WePlay done, we try to give new one involved for teams. We play Academy League, which has online plus LAN format, so teams are able to travel, teams are able to play, and we as this product we are able to develop CS:GO ecosystem in general, because I couldn't say that it's tier one events, but the production and the quality of the event is great. And the junior teams develop in general industry gives a new breeze. And I think tournament organizers only need to discuss and see some more opportunities to organize maybe LAN events, but without viewers. So it's only we can do, and maybe help with some ideas regarding the boot camps, organize some maybe leaks, etc.
Yeah, Jakob, is there anything else that you'd suggest to TOs
Yeah.
to sort of combat issues?
Well, to be honest, I think WePlay especially has been part of sort of finding a solution to these things, because we were one of the first people to have an active bench. We are also having an academy team playing in the Academy League that WePlay is organizing, and I think building that up to a place where the player personnel on that level can actually step in for some of our players, I think that is vital, because the problem is you will be in a situation where you might need a break for a day. And if you let that continue, then you need a break for a week. And at some point, you're going to, crush, and you need a break for 3 months. So the earlier in the process, we can catch that. But players have not been sort of brought up in a system where it's okay to say you need a break. And the crazy thing about Counter-Strike is you're 5 players, right? There's nobody else. Imagine in a situation where if a football player didn't turn up to practice, they couldn't practice. Like if Ronaldo doesn't turn up to the Manchester United practice, nobody practices. You can't do anything about it. It's an insane system. So the better we build the support system around the players and allow them to be able to say to our sports director, look, I need a break. Sorry, I need to spend some time with my family. I need a couple of days off. Can you put this player in from the academy team? If that is a viable solution, I think that is going to help a lot. But we also need to put the players in a situation where they feel comfortable making that claim. And I think that is important. And again, I salute what WePlay have done with the Academy League. I think obviously there's a much room to grow, but also that also will happen through the support of the teams.
Yeah, that's the issue of player burnout has always been a thing in Counter-Strike. Do you think there are too many tournaments?
I don't think there is now. I think there used to be. Because I remember I did like a calculation at some point through Astralis, where I think my calculation said that we were going to be spending 192 days on the road in one of the years. I mean, that's absolutely crazy. So I think now we've found a pretty good solution to it. I think a lot of the players actually want to go on the road now because they've been at home for so long. So, yeah, I just hope that we don't overcompensate once the world sort of opens, and now there's just tournaments everywhere. But I think Counter-Strike is starting to find a good footing, and I think I'm not that afraid of the amount of tournaments now.
And what do you think about tier 2 growing? So for the market, what I mean, so right now and for upcoming year and for the last year, we have a lot of tier 1 content, and there is a big problem for for a lot of teams and organizations. So does it mean that right now is a direct time to grow maybe tier 2, tier 3 market and give some actual numbers and give a possibility for teams to play? And will it be interesting for tier 1 teams? So like how we could together develop it one, if you have a lot of, I couldn't say free time, but pandemic time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think it's an interesting discussion, right? Because Counter-Strike has been built the reverse way of normal sports. So football, for example, have been built from the bottom and up. So you start with local leagues, then you became national leagues, then the national leagues started playing each other. Counter-Strike is the other way around. We started building the Champions League, and now we're pretty good where we have the Champions League, but we have nothing below it. The drop is massive off of this, but that doesn't mean that there isn't players who are talented and could play on the Champions League level. There absolutely is, but there's no system for them to sort of rise up through that sort of barrier. So yeah, I think we're going to have to figure out how that's going to be done. I don't think we've found a perfect answer to that yet, but I think academy leagues, local leagues, different sort of tournaments could be interesting to look into in regards to that.
Cool. let's move on to something I know Niclas wants to talk about. You mentioned it at the start. The betting space. Esports betting is still a touchy subject for some, I guess. So let's go into how the state of that industry at the moment, particularly as it relates to Counter-Strike.
Yeah, I can say directly. I think that betting is a major thing when it comes to CS:GO. If you see, everyone is talking about it right now. Everyone is trying to build their own esports sports books, and there's just a lot of things going on when it comes to esports betting. And I think that if we look at 2021, the things that we said in the beginning, if my father is watching a game of CS, he's probably gonna play like who will win the game or who will lose the game or whatever. So, but we still have so many fun markets that we can look into and that we haven't even touched yet. So, if we look at a game that is going on, let's say Astralis is facing NIP, and the pistol round starts, and on Bet365 you can place a bet on who will win round 4. Like, no one cares about round 4. If we can find a solution, the things that Abios is working with today, to get the real-time data to the server, so we can, when round 1 starts, you can place a bet on who will win round 1, and when round 3 starts, you can place a bet on who will win round 3. We just need to find a good solution for that. There are so many things that we can do when it comes to betting, especially live betting, and the things that we are missing today. So I'm really looking forward to the real-time markets in 2022.
And how would you react to some of the issues that the betting faces, particularly when it comes to it could be children watching broadcasts, and any advertising around betting would be bad for that, right?
I am one of the guys that says that I think that you should be totally fine with whatever advertisement you want, to be honest. I think that if some people are willing to spend a lot of money to have their advertising in broadcasts and stuff like that, feel free to do that. That just helps the esport industry, to be honest. I don't think that it has that much to do with people getting addicted or stuff like that. But that's just my personal opinion. Remember that.
I think the other side about the children you mentioned is about that responsibility and to be honest with audience you work with, and to work with this audience as well. Because regarding the TO side, we are guys who promote betting as well into our broadcast, and each our integration have some notification about the responsibility and about the age. From my perspective, I see some difference in changes into ESA market, because not latest announced about drafting and Space Clown. It was interesting for me to look how it's growing. Also, I can say that the general viewership stats and general viewership growing involve people in the process. Like Niclas mentioned, he'd take his father and maybe he will be interested. So we just need to see more and how it will be in 2022, because few results for this year couldn't be postponed for next year. But in general, if the market and esports growing, this area also will grow. Because by the last results, esports started to be one of the main. Not one of the main. I think esports give a good numbers and started to compete with some traditional sports, which gives it's great for betting as well.
Cool. So CS:GO obviously a massive esport in the tier 1 of esports, but of course it has plenty of competitors as well. Not least Valorant, which released last year and is sort of the Riot Games backed juggernaut that's threatening the FPS scene, I guess. So yeah, Niclas, talk to me about which games you see as the main rivals to Counter-Strike in 2021.
Just like you say, I definitely think that Valorant is a very big competitor to Counter-Strike, as it's probably the only FPS game that is close. And when you play CS and when you play Valorant, you can really feel that the mechanics are kind of the same. If you have good aim in Counter-Strike, you will for sure have good aim in Valorant as well, because it's kind of like built the same. But I still think that there is it's a major difference between the two games. I mean, in Counter-Strike, you have different tactics and all of that. In Valorant, you have it, but you have you have spells to use, you can pop your ulti and whatnot. I mean, there's so many things that going on in Valorant, and it's a major difference compared to Counter-Strike. Everyone that have played both games know that. So, I mean, also there were a lot of people switching from CSGO to Valorant in the beginning with so much money being spent on, I mean, people were just throwing money at Valorant, different org jumping straight into it and ignore Counter-Strike for a while. But I think that we can see now that both players and organizations are coming back to Counter-Strike because everyone knows that it's the game that everyone should focus on. CS is definitely here to stay. I understand the hype about Valorant. I think that Valorant is a fun game, but it is a competitor, but I would not like to call it a competitor because I think that there's almost two different games. So yeah, it's FPS, but I still think that when we looked at Valve, for example, they haven't spoken to their audience for many years. I mean, it was almost impossible to get in contact with Valve, and then Valorant comes up, Riot is getting involved, and they are stealing a few players from CS. Then Valve all of a sudden CSGO gets very active on Twitter. They speak with the famous people in the CSGO scene. They're very active. And so I think that it was good from a Counter-Strike perspective to actually get, let's say, competitor, because then they felt like, okay, boys, we need to fix some things. We need to get our shit together and do some fun updates. I mean, we could see that they were doing the latest update where you can drop the grenades to your teammates and stuff like that. I mean, I feel like they finally start to focus more on the game and get involved in the game again. And so, from my perspective, it's only positive that Valorant have popped up because it will make CS even better.
I guess one indication, one argument against it being a competitor is no Astralis team in Valorant. Do you want to go into why that is?
Yeah, so just to sort of take it from the top, I very much disagree with the notion that Valorant is a competitor to Counter-Strike in that regard. I think sort of the beautiful simplicity of Counter-Strike has always been its strength, right? It's a super simple game. It's super hard to master. It is, to my knowledge, the best balanced competitive game of all time. I think that's also why it's working so well. And I think the people who are changing from Counter-Strike to Valorant are people who probably would have preferred to play Counter-Strike, but just doesn't have the skills to get the deal that they want anymore, right? So I mean that's just the truth. So I think Valorant, from a casual FPS gamer, yes, it probably is multiple times bigger than Counter-Strike already, but from a competitive standpoint, I don't see it. I think it's a different type of game in the same way that Fortnite is an FPS as well, but it's also a different type of game than Counter-Strike. I think Valorant need to figure out, do they optimize it for competitive player? Do they optimize it for the casual gamer? I mean, Fortnite is 100% optimized for the casual game. That's fair. There is 70, 100 million of them. So, of course, that makes sense. So I don't see Valorant as the pure sort of competitive shooter. I think it's going to be a great game. I think people are going to compete in it, but that doesn't mean that it's going to replace Counter-Strike. The other interesting trend we see is Counter-Strike. One of the things that I really liked about Counter-Strike historically is that you see detachment between viewership and player base. So you can easily see the player base just drop while the viewership base just continues up, which means that people watch it even if they don't play it. I mean, imagine a world where the only people watching football are the people playing football. Football will be a very bad product compared to what it is today if that was the case. So I think Counter-Strike as a viewership sport, as an entertainment product, is going to continue to hammer on. I think from a casual player-based perspective, yes, Valorant is going to steal some, but so are Apex and other games. So I think pitching them against each other is honestly a narrative probably driven more by Riot than anyone else, because it makes sense for them to talk about this as a Counter-Strike beater, but I don't see it. And I think that the other thing is Counter-Strike doesn't have the biggest fan base in the world, right? If you look at the viewership base for the major, yes, there was a couple of million people, it was great. But in the grand scheme of things, that's a relatively small number. The big thing is that those people are the most dedicated esports fans in the world. If you play Counter-Strike, you play to win, you play because you want to watch the pros and you want to become as good as them. So I think the core people who watch Counter-Strike, who love Counter-Strike, is going to continue to do that, and Valorant is never going to change that. Valorant will probably have 10 times as many casual gamers as Counter-Strike has, and that's fine. But I don't see it for Valorant yet, no.
So I guess
we won't have a sorry. Does that mean that we won't have an Astralis Valorant team? Maybe, who knows? but I wouldn't see them as a competitor to a Counter-Strike team.
I agree with Niclas and with Jakob as well, but I would like to underline that we are talking about biggest more than competitors in way of CSGO vs Valorant. I think we are talking about the competition between maybe publishers, because all is going from market development. And if we will see some type of regions which will involve more in Valorant and which is more involved with CSGO, we will see the answers. Also, I can underline that the results of this competition we will see after 13th, when the Valorant Championship will be finished, and we will be able to compare how it's look and how it's work regarding the major, because major is the same status of the event. Also, I think we need to understand that in a way of competition between these disciplines, we need to understand how publishers also work, because there is some not issues. There is some blocked categories which we are not able to involve into the Valorant. There is some way how you should to make and organize events regarding the IPs, and there is quite different way how you are able to organize CSGO event or you are able to organize Valorant event. Also, we need to understand the regions which are more involved, because I believe that Valorant is not more CIS and European game, but anyway, it could be. So it's I couldn't say that there will be a lot of competitors for CSGO, but for market development and for ecosystem development, I agreed with Niclas that it's great that Valorant is, and we are able to play, and we are able to see such great events. For it, fun.
I just want to throw it in there as well, that, I mean, if we look from a player perspective, I mean, the players that were switching from CSGO to Valorant in the beginning, I mean, we had Nitro, that was kind of like bored at CS at that time, and we had Scream that was not even a professional player anymore. We had Floppy, we had there were a few people leaving CS to Valorant, and now they are kind of like switching back. I mean, we have Nitro that was definitely the best player that left CS, and he's back in action soon in Counter-Strike again. So as a Counter-Strike fan, it feels good that they're coming back to CS again and just skipping Valorant.
And I want to add one thing, being also Counter-Strike fan, there is a big difference that Valorant have few more options, that it's not a blood game, because sometimes there is a quite hard opportunity to negotiate with some partners or brands, because CSGO have some different type. But anyway, just want to underline that it's we are talking about, I think, more than games named competition. And
yeah, Valentyn, you mentioned the different markets there as well. Valorant has made some impact in sort of the Asian market, particularly in Korea. It's got a quite healthy Valorant scene, whereas Counter-Strike, as you mentioned, is quite a Western / Russian CIS region game. Does CS need to do something to try and break into those markets like China and Korea, where there's a great big esports market, or do you think it's fine as it is?
From my perspective, I think CSGO right now is on the Chinese market, Asian market. But to be honest, it will be better if these two markets could be involved for more LANs events and more online events. What I mean, we all understand that competition, it's one way to win and to see and involve the viewership and involve people to this discipline. So it will be great if after COVID and for another one perspective, WePlay will be able to organize events when there will be LAN finals, as well as in Europe, in China, with teams from Europe, CIS market, China, Asia market. But also we need to understand the Asian market, because for perspective of streaming platforms, which is really different, the China market, it's really different, which we have in Europe, like Twitch, YouTube, because there is legal points regarding publishing games. So in China market is allowed to only publish games, which not so much and not so a lot of games. So why a lot of people in China and Asia market going to Valorant? But anyway, it's growing, and we will try to make it better.
Great.
But,
one more.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, one topic I wanted to get to just before we finish up with some audience questions is about community engagement, because obviously CSGO would be nothing without the fans. So what's the current state of what teams and tournament organizers are doing to sort of engage the community, and how far do you think you can push that going into the new year? Let's start with Jakob now.
Yeah, so I think for us, we did a little bit of a counter-COVID move. We opened a 1,400 square meter facility in the center of Copenhagen next to the central entrance of Tivoli. You can play, you can see the trophies, you can take pictures, you can buy merchandise. There's an experience part, you can meet streamers, etc. I think a lot of that is something that's quite underutilized from esport and gaming. I think it's people really want to share experiences and be a part of it more than just sitting at home. And I think we need to be able to enable that. I think one other thing that I would like to highlight is I think Blast is doing a very good job at trying to push this into the more sort of mainstream normalized media package. So, for example, here in Denmark, I mean, the reason why you don't see a lot of Danish viewers on the Twitch stream is because when we play Counter-Strike, it's on national TV. You can just turn on your TV and watch it on one of the biggest broadcasters in Denmark. And I think that gives it a mainstream appeal that will completely go above and beyond anything else. I think Blast is doing a very good job trying to push that agenda forward, because I do believe that is where we will find the successes, because I think we need the big media platforms to embrace this right about. I mean, the day I knew that we had made it big here in Denmark was the day that one of the big tabloids, gossip sort of columns on the internet, wrote a story about one of our players dumping his girlfriend. Then I was like, okay, now we're mainstream, right? So I think can we push that forward? I think instead of just being happy with this little niche that we are, trust me, well, again, we're not a small niche anymore. It's quite big right now, but I still believe that we can embrace and encourage others to join in, because again, I mean, esport and Counter-Strike in particular is one hell of an entertainment product.
Yeah, I'd like to say that I totally agree about some TV promotion, because right now and after such great results from CS market, they started to see that esports is great, and we are able to cooperate and make some new ideas with TV and digital TV as well, because there are a lot of viewers which still don't maybe know, or they know but never watched it one. So we are able to collaborate, create, and have more ideas. Like we are also seeing a lot of ideas for engagement with NFT tokens into esports, which we create as well, like Shooter from A to Z. It's we play collectibles product. So there are a lot of types. You need to communicate with your audience. You need to provide them with something interesting that they want to be involved into. So yeah. I'd like, Niclas, and what about the data? How it could be engaged regarding the community? Because I know there are a lot of B2B products, and during the pandemic, it engaged a lot of people as well.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think that the most popular thing that we do together with tournament organizers is to like create good content for, let's say that it's Navi versus Astralis, and before when Lucky had the AWP, it was again simple, and you could just create widgets and content around like who will get the most op kills, who I mean, just create fun content around the tournament or around the matches that's going on as well. I think that's very, very important. And I also just want to throw it in there that, I mean, here in Sweden, we look at Denmark very much. I mean, we almost wasn't able to have the major here in Sweden, which is just a big joke because it's so big. I mean, I was so mad when I did read that, yeah, you know what, Counter-Strike isn't a real sport, yada yada. Well, just stop it. We're here to we need the major here in Sweden. We want to have the Counter-Strike on the national TV as well. It's so important. It annoyed me very much, but yeah, I mean, to answer your question, Valentyn, it's just good to create content with the data that we have and create fun and engaging content in the server and on the matches.
Yeah, and also if you are talking about community engagement, it's also creating a new product, which you believe. It's like it's also WePlay Academy. I could say it's new product which give new engagement, new ideas, and new future possibilities for audience, for fans, and for market as well.
Yeah, I think when we look at the WePlay Academy tournament that you had, that was just insanely fun to watch because you were creating so many new things. You had the casters, sitting in boats like fishing and stuff like that. I mean, I loved every second of that. I mean, it was just it's just insanely fun to watch. And one thing that is worth mentioning here as well, speaking about how we can bring even more people to the to Counter-Strike, I think that we should give a shout out to like all the casters that are out there right now, like Chad, like Machine, and all of the boys there. I mean, they're doing such a good job. They're traveling as much as the players, and they're doing so much good for the CS industry. So I think that we should be very happy with the casters that we have today, and how professional and how good they are. They are definitely a very big reason why Counter-Strike is so popular. Like casters and HLTV and whatnot, we should give a huge shout out to them.
And I'd like to mention it will be cool if publishers will be also involved to community engagement, because we all know that community is our viewership potential. So, and probably it will be good ideas for upcoming years how publisher could help and how publisher could communicate with all of us, with organizations, with tournament operator, and with the community as well, to provide more content, more events, etc.
Cool. We've got a few minutes left, so I'm going to hand it over to the audience for a few questions. There's some in here already, so send in your questions now if you have them. First one up here is just a general question about, I guess, how many tournaments we have in Counter-Strike right now. How many tier 1 LAN events are there right now, and how many are expected for next year, if anyone has the data for that?
I can say directly that I do have the data, but I don't have it right in my like on paper here. But I mean, there's a lot of things. Like we said, the major was not too long ago. We had Blast. Right now, it's IEM Winter going on. So I mean, there are so many tournaments. I agree, Jakob, that we're starting to find a good way to handle all of these tournaments, but I still understand why some players needs a player break every once in a while. To be honest, it's a lot of tournaments. It's a lot of traveling. I mean, I'm 31 years old. I wouldn't have a chance with that. I would be too tired.
I can say that right now on CS:GO, since there are a lot of tier 1 events, and I think the perspective is to develop tier 2 as well. And I could promise that next year WePlay will organize 4 LAN events, because we have great ideas. I couldn't say it will be with viewers. Maybe will, but yes, it will, and we will did it. Maybe more. Let's see.
One more question here is, I guess, going back to the competitor angle, and we didn't talk much about League of Legends because there's such different games, and there's quite a different audience, I guess you could say. But again, the Asia angle. So why is Counter-Strike not as popular in Asia as something like League of Legends?
Well, I think, to be honest, I think it's a publisher thing. It depends on how it's pushed and how it's positioned. So you'll see games like Free Fire and others who are insanely popular in a certain enclave of countries because there's a publisher there who really understands how to push it and promote it. And I don't think it's ever really been something that Valve has actually tried to do. They tried at some point to do something with Perfect World for China and make a push there, but I don't think it ever really succeeded. You have to remember that most games, the normal standard of games is to have a separate version of it for China, for example. So for FIFA, you don't have FIFA, you have FIFA Online that you play in China. And I think Korea has such a deep history of games, and I think it's very hard to sort of fiddle with that. They have a very sort of dependent way of how they wanted to do things. I'm an old school Counter-Strike guy, so I remember Project KR and all the others sort of back in the day that was actually pretty good at Counter-Strike from the Korea. But in general, I don't think it's a priority from Valve, to be honest. I think sort of their focus in my world that they should be on making sure that they hang on in the US market more than anything.
Great. Anything else from you two other guys to add? If
Totally
not,
agree.
then Yeah.
I can,
Yeah, good answer.
I can just say that. I mean, I remember that there was some kind of it was a guy from China that did something in Counter-Strike. They were playing versus G2, and he's like 15 years old and did a pistol ace all of a sudden versus G2, which was very impressive. And I think they have some rules in China, like you're not allowed to play games for more than a couple of hours per week if you're under 18 or something like that. So I think that that was just it's just a big mess. So I think they need to sort some things out there if they want this community to grow even more.
But community growing only if publisher are involved into growing these communities. So yeah, I am totally agreed that it's only marketing side how to promote game and how to involve viewers and how to involve players. So they should think maybe how to do it better.
For that.
And on that note, I think we'll wrap up this the panel on Counter-Strike. I'd like to thank Jakob, Niclas, and Valentyn again for joining me, and thank you very much for watching. See you later.
Thank you, boys.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.